Hello everybody and welcome back to this series which I started 3 months ago and haven't updated till now, but you know, whatever. My name is Necroxis and this is Necroxis Has a Daydream. I want to say before we begin, just to remind you, last time I said I wasn't going to go back and go over lore that already had happened and try and rewrite it. I decided screw that rule because it's pretty publicly acknowledged that I really am dissatisfied with the Warlords of Draenor lore. So this first part of this new series reiteration is going to be me rewriting a piece of the lore, which I hope will be more cohesive in the overall story and people can enjoy it more, because even though I have been publicly dissatisfied with it, I know a lot of people who have said to me either privately or not as publicly as I have that they also were dissatisfied. So today in Necroxis Has a Daydream, my friends, I have a daydream about Drek'thar and Nobundo. More specifically, their role in the quest chain at the Throne of Elements and what happens when they go to Oshu'gun and confront Cho'gall, who is corrupting the Naru there. And what I mean by this is I feel like this could have been done in a much more nuanced way, a more interesting way, and a way that could have brought into the equation a lot of really curious or fascinating side stories or side things that could be happening. So let me begin. I'm going to point out to you guys how I think the quest chain should have went, and just to remind you that this series is non-scripted. So if I end up repeating myself a little bit, it's because most of this is off the cuff, off of my insane brain, and yeah. So let's get started. Okay, just be forewarned, I will be spoiling pretty much all of the Throne of the Elements as well as the Oshu'gun quest chains, so if you have not done those yet, then beware. So, to start the Throne of the Elements quest chain, if you're Alliance, you basically get the quest from someone in your base in the Grand at the Talari Ranger Station. I believe that is what that base is called. And if you're Horde, you get it from Warvar. And if you're Horde, you are told like, hey, Farseer Drek'thar is here and he has gone to the Throne of the Elements. If you're with the Alliance, you're told, hey, Vindicator Nobundo was just here and he has gone to the Throne of the Elements. Pause right here because this is when things begin to change. And this is pretty much the only time, maybe one of the only times, where you will hear me say the Alliance gets something a little bit more than the Horde does in this quest chain. Because if you're Horde, you just get sent to the Throne of the Elements. But pause there because we're going to the Alliance. If you're Alliance, you do not get told that Nobundo was here and left. Nobundo is still here in my version. He ends up telling you that he's been hearing these weird whispers on the wind and something is drawing him to the Throne of the Elements, and he wants you to accompany him because he does not understand what is going on. That is what the quest says. You start the quest, you mount up alongside him, and you ride with Nobundo from the Talari Ranger Station to the Throne of the Elements, and while this is happening, you are told kind of a little bit of a story from Nobundo. And what he basically tells you is that ever since your meeting with him in Talador, which you do if you're Alliance, I believe Horde does it too, but at the very least the Alliance does. You see him fighting the Burning Legion in Talador. He gives you a couple quests to go kill a bunch of demons and stuff. But he tells you basically ever since he saw you in Talador, and ever since he witnessed Auchindoun kind of fall to the Burning Legion in Tarangor, even though it has been redeemed by his death, you are still told that something has not felt right for him. He has not been able to call upon the light as easily as he used to. And he keeps hearing these whispers on the wind, and basically it's a callback to his story in our universe called Unbroken, which is a very good short story, by the way, if you haven't read it yet. It's kind of old now, but it's very good. It explains how Nobundo in our universe lost the ability to control the light and became a shaman, and he did so by first hearing the whispers on the wind. So this universe's Nobundo, Vindicator Nobundo, tells you while you're riding to the Throne of the Elements that something is wrong with him, and he's not sure what's going on, but he's being drawn to the Throne of the Elements. He's hearing these whispers on the wind. He's not able to control the light as easily, and he does not know why. He feels strange, and he wants you to help him figure out what's going on. So I feel like that would be a great connection to our universe, as well as a good progression for the character where I think he ultimately should end up, which in the end, I think Nobundo in this universe, even though the official game actually kind of supports this as well with his appearance in this quest chain, is to ultimately become Farseer Nobundo in the end, and he doesn't even have to become broken in this universe. He could become the first pure blood Draenei shaman, and that's kind of where I'm going with this quest chain. So you go there with Nobundo, he shows up. This is when you see, if you're Horde, you get there and you see Nobundo riding up. Drek'thar is not happy about this because shamanism has always been kind of an orc thing, And he's not angry because he doesn't like the Draenei. Drek'thar always was pretty much cool with the Draenei. He's more kind of annoyed that why is there this Draenei here trying to figure out this shamanistic problem. And they have kind of a little argument saying, like, look, Drek'thar is saying this is an orc problem, this is a shaman problem. Nobundo saying, look, I'm here to help, I don't know what's going on, I feel strange, I need to figure out what's going on, until they are stopped by one of the elements, probably Incineratus, which is the fire elemental, because he is usually the one you report to, as well as Arboreus. One of them tells them to stop, and that the elemental, the throne of the elements, the furies of the elementals want these two characters to work together to figure out what's going on with Gordog. So that's the beginning of the quest chain. And the quest chain pretty much proceeds as normal. You have to do, I believe, the 4 different quests that the Furies want you to do. One of which is to activate all the runes. One of which is to kill kind of the lieutenant, if you want to call it that, of the Furies which have been infected. And then I believe a third one is killing a bunch of mobs and stuff. The only important thing I would change is during the parts where you fight like the special mob of the fire, the air, the earth, and the water elementals, there's kind of a little mini scene that happens at each one. And at the first one, Drek'thar and Nobundo are there fighting with you. I should mention that they're also with you this whole time as well, as opposed to the official quest chain, which they kind of stand around and don't do much, and they just kind of serve as a quest giver. But they're actually with you this time. At the very first one, they're fighting together. Nobundo is very upset because he can no longer now call upon the light at all. And he's kind of just meleeing with his hammer, while Drek'thar is kind of not sure what's going on. The second one, Drek'thar and Nobundo are fighting together once again, and Nobundo makes a point to say that he's hearing this weird elemental whispers more than ever, and Drek'thar kind of hints at him that maybe he's hearing the elements, and he's going down the path of shamanism, and Nobundo is not sure how to take this. We get to the third one, this conversation continues. Nobundo now is kind of, you end up having to fight Nobundo because he's going a little bit crazy. He can't understand why the elements are doing what they're doing. You don't kill him, you just kind of get up to half health, and then he kind of stops. And he kind of comes to terms that maybe he is hearing the elements. And finally, at the fourth one, when you're fighting him, it will be a kind of a bigger, a little bit longer scene where Drek'thar kind of gets taken out or like paralyzed or incapacitated by one of these elements, and he's about to kill Drek'thar. Nobundo steps in the way, and he kind of does kind of a basic elemental attack. Maybe he shoots a little bit of a lightning bolt, or maybe he uses an earth shield to block the attack, and then you as the player finish off the elemental, and Nobundo's kind of standing there like, what the fuck just happened? And Drek'thar is kind of like, well, it looks like I was right in the end. So, chain finishes, all those quests finished, you go back to the Fury Elementals, and they tell you, look, we have figured out this vision. You see it. You see the same exact cutscene as you see in the game right now, where Cho'gall is corrupting Kurei instead of Oshu'gun, and Nobundo says to himself, maybe that's why he can no longer control the light. And the elements counter, however, saying that maybe this is what the light has wanted all along. Maybe a Draenei who can help the rest of their brethren understand this weird power of shamanism. Maybe the light is making him become a shaman, so that he can explain this phenomenon to the rest of his people. Nobundo isn't convinced, but regardless, Drek'thar and Nobundo go to Oshu'gun because they need to take care of Cho'gall and what he's doing there. So the quest chain then proceeds as normal. You go to Oshu'gun, you do the few quests in there, you end up finding Gordog, which is the elemental fury. Drek'thar and Nobundo fight against him. Gordog kind of makes a weird comment toward Nobundo. He kind of says something to the effect of, what is this Draenei using our powers doing here? And Nobundo is kind of like, I don't know what he's talking about. And Drek'thar is like, look, I told you, you're becoming a shaman. They both kill Gordog. You go in there, confront Cho'gall. He teleports away, and you end up fighting Decimatus. I believe that's Decimatus. It's the Void Lord that Kurei turns into. You fight, and you kill Decimatus. Nobundo then says, he basically is relieved because he believes he can now use the light. He tries to heal himself because he's been injured in the fight. Turns out he still cannot use the light. He can no longer use the light. He doesn't understand why. He's freaking the fuck out. But the whole time since you've killed Decimatus, and you as a player have not really noticed this, but it's been sitting in the place that Decimatus died, is the core of Kurei, which is just like what happens when you kill Muru in the Sunwell Plateau. The core of the Naru remains, and the core kind of begins speaking, It tells Nobundo that this is the Light's will. The Light wants this to happen. It wants Nobundo to learn the ways of shamanism, and thus has stopped coming to his call. And the Light reassures Nobundo that this is not a curse, but an amazing opportunity for a Draenei of all people in this universe to understand and begin learning the call of shamanism. And Nobundo was chosen because, for whatever reason, just like in our universe, he has had this innate connection to the elements, and he is destined to become the first Draenei shaman, and him doing so will better help the two cultures of the Draenei and the Frostwolves meld together, because they are going to need to help one another to help stop not only the Iron Horde, but also the Burning Legion. And I know me, as Necroxis, has always been someone who has lamented the idea of, let's everyone be friends to fight the bad guys, but in this case, it makes sense from a lore perspective. This is what the Naru always like to do. So, that is how this quest chain would end, and that is where this first video will end, and I actually have plans to segue what happens here into a next Necroxis Has a Daydream, where I'm going to take a look at a lot of the Garrison campaign quests, which I didn't think were very good, and I see a lot of people agreeing with me, and we're going to rewrite some of those to be more lore impacting, not changing the whole storyline, but more having interesting side stories, because I think that is a major failing of this expansion. All of the side stories they've tried to make have gone nowhere, or they don't make sense. So, that is it for this one. We're going to piggyback off of this thing happening, where Nobundo is just learning how to become a shaman, and we're going to see where that takes him next time when we continue Necroxis Has a Daydream. So, thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know how you feel about this one in the comments below. I know it's kind of more alliance heavy, but to be honest, you as a Horde player will be there the entire time watching this happen. The only thing the Horde player would miss is the conversation between the Alliance and Nobundo as they're riding to the Throne of the Elements. And so there will be some more Drek'thar stuff coming up to connect to this storyline in my own reimagined Garrison campaign, so don't worry. But thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time. This has been Necroxis, and this has been my Daydream.